Warning: the stories in this season deal with situations that may be traumatic or harmful, especially for minors and sensitive individuals.
Evil returns. The night returns. I'm Uriel Reyes, creator of Relatos de la Noche, where I share stories for those of us who enjoy diving into the most terrible nightmares. The teacher was lying on the floor. Her hands were completely destroyed. The content of these stories is not suitable for sensitive people. It confronts darkness and makes you explore stories so shocking they can't be shown elsewhere. Her son was curled up next to her with his head on his mother's lap, his wrists covered in blood. Every time I pass by a church, I feel a bit uneasy. I know that what I experienced or what I saw is completely abnormal, but nothing seems more macabre, more evil to me than a cult that hides within the church among its followers. When we asked what you wanted us to discuss during October of Stories, one of the most suggested topics was cults, dark cults, and even though it's a thorny subject, one that I don't really like to touch on. We've received some really good, really impactful stories recently, so we felt it was the right time for a new special edition of Macabre Cults. Remember to leave us a comment with your favorite topics, because this month we want to please you. It's our Christmas, so let's enjoy it. Let's go with the first story. It's time to let yourself go and give yourself the chance to listen, to imagine. You're already listening to Relatos de la Noche. Hello, community. My name is Rodrigo. I'm an architect, and I want to tell you something that happened to me 8 years ago when I was just starting to work. I'm not sure how to explain it without making it sound like an exaggeration or as if I'd lost my mind, but I swear what I experienced was real. At that time, my uncle, who has worked for years restoring temples and old buildings, invited me to join him on a project in a Sierra Norte de Puebla village. The task was to repair the roof and some vaults of the church San Bartolomé de las Cumbres. It was a very old village, beautiful, but completely isolated. To get there, you had to take a dirt road that became dangerous as soon as evening fell. There was no cell phone signal, no stores, nothing around, just the forest and the mountains. The priest who welcomed us was an older man with a kind voice, but he spoke in a way that commanded respect, like a father from the movies. From the very first day, he asked us something strange, that under no circumstances should we work after sunset. The church needs to rest, he said with a smile, but to me it didn't feel peaceful. We must not disturb its peace when night falls. No one answered him, but we all felt there was something strange about that warning. During the first days, we worked without any problems, although things moved very slowly. My uncle and I were both worried about the deadlines. I wanted to prove I was responsible and that he could trust me with more projects. On the third day, around 9 at night, I was in the little wooden room with a dirt floor, where I was staying those days, near the town. I was reviewing the blueprints. There were several things that could be sped up if they were organized better, so I took my notebook and decided to go back to the church to write everything down. I wanted to make a good impression on my uncle, and besides, I told myself that not working at night must just be a superstition of the priest. I headed to the church. The path was completely dark. When I arrived, the temple seemed empty, but as I got closer, I noticed something, a sound coming from inside. It was like a murmur. I I thought some construction workers had returned to get ahead on work. But when I peeked through the side door, there was no one, just a faint light filtering from beneath the altar. I got curious. I took a flashlight and went down the stairs that led to the basement, the area where the old church materials were stored. They didn't let us in because they stored everything there: communion wafers, consecration wine, and anything that couldn't be upstairs during the renovation. That's when I saw what makes me write to you tonight. Down there were at least 10 figures dressed completely in black, standing around some kind of bonfire. In the center, suspended upside down, a papier-mâché Christ was slowly burning. The flames were consuming it from the head, while they murmured something that sounded like prayers, but in reverse. I didn't know how long I stood there, unable to move. It was probably just a second, an instant that stretched out in my terror, until one of the figures turned toward me. It was the father. His face was covered in soot, but I recognized him instantly. He looked straight at me. He took a step forward and shouted, "Wait!" But I didn't stay to find out what he wanted. I ran upstairs, went out the side door, and then turned off my flashlight to walk along that dark path. I didn't stop until I got to my room. I locked the door, turned off the lights, and stayed there trembling, listening to my own breathing. I didn't sleep that night. Several times I thought I saw shadows moving in front of the window, as if someone was walking around the guest house. At dawn, when my uncle came for me, I told him I was sick, that I wouldn't be able to go to work. He paused briefly, then asked me, "You went into the church last night, right?" I didn't know what to say, so I just told him everything, no matter how crazy it sounded. He wasn't surprised. He just sighed and said he suspected something. "Pack your things? We're going to leave without telling them. We just grab everything and get out of here." That same morning, he arrived with his truck and we left. No one spoke during the trip. His entire team decided to abandon the restoration. We had been working almost for free as a favor to the diocese, but no one wanted to go back. Not even to talk about why we abandoned that project. A couple of months later, my uncle got news that the priest had disappeared. No one continued with the restorations. They told him that overnight they left the temple empty, with the doors sealed with chains and a sign that said, "Closed until further notice." Since then, every time I pass by a church, I feel a bit uneasy. I know that what I experienced, what I saw, is completely abnormal, but nothing seems more macabre, more evil to me than a cult hiding in a church among its followers. Hello, Uriel. Your 2 million subscribers video encouraged me to share something that actually happened to me in Querétaro. I hope you can read it. The only thing I've changed are the names of the people who experienced that with me. The locations I leave as they are. Nothing I'm about to tell you is modified or altered to make this story more appealing. The events described are the ones that actually happened. I must confess that I'm writing this with fears that all of this could catch up with me. As a result of the events I'm about to recount, I had to change my habits. I had to change cities. I had to leave a part of my life behind. All of this takes place in the apparent calm of the state of Querétaro. In a distant year, 2016. At that time, I met my 2 greatest friends, Paulina Guillen and Roman Ortega. We met in the Systems Engineering program at the Autonomous University of Querétaro, at the Juriquilla campus. It started with just Roman and me. Our friendship began like most between men, discussing video games. Everything was purely academic until, in the third semester, Paulina arrived as if by divine intervention. She was like bait in a sea full of sharks, the only woman in the systems engineering program in that generation. How did we become friends? Well, Roman had a girlfriend and I was a full-on nerd. I never even thought about approaching her with any romantic intentions, so she was the one who approached us. Months went by and we formed an incredible friendship. We spent all our time together at school. Then we'd go to Paulina's grandmother's house in La Pradera, or to have dinner with Roman's dad in the El Tintero neighborhood where he had lived since his mom died. That was our routine until, with a lot of effort, and after going hungry at school a few times, I bought my first car, a 2009 Zuru, a bit old and not much to look at, but good enough for a college student eager to take on the world. After a few months of using it, I finally got up the courage to take it out on the highway. After many conversations and ideas between Pau, Roman, and me, the perfect destination came to us as if it had fallen from the sky. An uncle of Roman had owned a vacation house in the Sierra Gorda of Querétaro for a few years, a rustic cabin in the middle of the forest, and very close to the, at that time, famous Puente de Dios waterfall. It seemed like the perfect plan. The house needed repairs on the roof to prevent leaks from the sleet that fell in the area during the winter season. We were looking for an excuse to take my car out on the road and enjoy a good weekend away from the city. We offered to fix it. So without hesitation, at most it would take us Saturday morning, and we could enjoy the rest of the day Sunday and even part of Monday enjoying the house. And just like that, on Saturday at 5 in the morning, we were already hitting the road heading to this place. After a couple of hours driving on extremely dangerous curves for someone with as little experience as me, we finally made it. My hands were soaked in sweat because of my lack of skill behind the wheel, but we made it. The repair took us longer than expected because of an intermittent drizzle that kept us from working continuously. Around 4 o'clock was when we were able to go down to the town to look for something to eat and buy some beer. When we were in the only store in town, I noticed a certain detail that, although it wasn't anything serious, did let me know that something wasn't right. While Roman and Pau were buying everything we needed to spend the night, I stayed outside to smoke a cigarette. In the distance, about 40 meters away, leaning against a post, there was a man, someone who seemed completely out of place there. He was wearing elegant clothes, a black shirt, black pants, black tactical boots, and his hair was slicked back with a lot of gel. His skin was white, not fair or light, white like a sheet of paper. And I stayed there hypnotized, watching him until I snapped out of it when Roman patted me on the back and said, "Come on, man, let's go. What are you staring at?" When I looked back to where that man was, there was no one there, neither him nor his car. But I let it go. It was just a strange man watching me from afar. What could be dangerous about that? We went back to the house, put on some music, and just as we were about to open the first beer, we heard a series of knocks on the roof. We thought we might have left some tools up there, so I offered to go up and check. But just as I was about to go out, the same pattern of knocks sounded. Now from some piece of furniture in the kitchen, from in there. We checked but found nothing. Empty cupboards and all the windows perfectly closed. With some discomfort, but trying to ignore it, we went on with our night. However, there was something strange. I couldn't get the man from the store out of my mind, and between beers and cigarettes, the night came to an end. We settled into the house's only room with 3 single beds, and everything was calm. We were already falling asleep when I heard someone whispering outside the house. They were whispers loud enough to be heard without much effort, but low enough that I couldn't make out exactly what they were saying. I got up carefully. I walked toward the window, trying to peek out without whatever was outside noticing me. When I got there, I saw about a dozen white figures about 10 meters from the house, talking among the trees in the forest. It took me a moment to realize, but it was those figures that were whispering. But it wasn't possible. They were at least 20 meters away. It was impossible for me to hear their voices. And while I was thinking about that, I heard footsteps almost right in front of me, and all I could do was throw myself to the ground. There was someone at the window, someone trying to look inside through the almost transparent glass. I hit my head when I dropped to the floor. I was a bit dazed. The impact sound probably woke Pau. She got up, approached the window, and I saw her standing there frozen and crying. Later, I learned what she saw. The same silhouettes as I saw, but this time, there was one more. A cross-shaped object about 2 meters tall. These silhouettes were holding someone down by force, while another one of them with a huge knife pierced the hands, the feet. The rest just stood there, watching, motionless. How those silhouettes were crucifying a man who was completely silent, as if accepting it, naked on the cross. I slowly got up and tried to wake up Roman, but it seemed like he had taken something that wouldn't let him react. After shaking him over and over, he finally woke up. We put on the first things we found, grabbed our stuff, and got out of there like lightning. I had never driven on the highway at night before, especially not in such adrenaline-filled conditions. I don't know how fast I was going, but in less than an hour and a half, we were already at Pau's house. We went in and sat on the couch in shock, trying to process what had happened. We spent the rest of the weekend at his house. Every now and then, someone would remember a detail and share it with us, trying to understand it, trying to make sense of what we had experienced. The human brain wasn't ready to see that. I wouldn't wish for anyone, not even my worst enemy, to find themselves in a situation like that. Days went by, and just when it seemed like the 3 of us were about to forget what happened, the worst happened. Real terror. While we were eating in the university dining hall, Pau's phone started ringing. I remember clearly that he answered and said, "Don't worry, Grandma." "Yes, that does, Grandma. Don't worry, I'm fine. It's nothing. I'm on my way." We followed her without question. On the way to the parking lot, she started telling us. "My grandmother says people came to the house and told her I got involved where I shouldn't have. They warned me to stay quiet if I didn't want anything to happen to her." Of course, her concern was understandable. Paulina's parents had died when she was just a child, and her grandmother was the only family she had left. We got to her house, and she described the person who threatened her. It matched perfectly with that man I saw watching me in the town, in the mountains. When I got home after all this, I didn't know how to feel about it. It was all real. It had really happened. It was really happening. I managed to fall asleep after a few hours of overthinking this whole situation. When a noise woke me up, my television was on. I walked into my apartment's living room and noticed my door was open, with the television and stove both on. I quickly closed the door and turned off the television and stove. and very nervous. Just as I was about to call the police, I started to listen. A voice in my head. That's the only way I can describe it. As if that voice could be heard everywhere at the same time. And it said, "You're not going to tell anyone. No one has to know. No one has to know. You're not going to tell anyone." That deafening voice, somewhere between a whisper and a very deep voice, almost shouting, made my ears hurt. I think I fainted. I'm not sure if it was from fear, pain, or something else. I woke up to missed calls from Roman. I called him back, and when someone answered, it was a woman who responded. I said hesitantly, Oh, hello." She answered, "Roman, I'm not going to play with you anymore." I heard how she covered her mouth so I wouldn't hear her laugh. I hung up and raced to Roman's house. I arrived, knocked on his door, and his dad opened it with a bit of suspicion, but he let me in quickly. Roman was in the living room, and as soon as he saw me, he said with teary eyes, "They broke into my house, man. They took my phone and the photo from my mom's altar. What the hell does she have to do with this?" Then his dad started to recount what happened that night at their house. I got home late from my last taxi trip. I parked in front of the house as usual, and when I got out of the car, I saw that the front gate was open. I entered with a metal pipe in hand and saw a woman in the living room. A woman identical to my wife, but something was wrong with her features. It wasn't something grotesque, but there was something strange, as if her face was swollen, as if she was wearing a mask. She stared at me while holding a cup of coffee, and I just stood there frozen in front of her. With a harsh, torn-sounding voice, she said to me, "Tell Romy not to stick her nose where it doesn't belong, or soon she'll be with her mommy. Miguel, the cup is in the kitchen right now. Did this really happen? And I need you to tell me exactly what you did and why these people are looking for you." Pau arrived an hour later. Once the three of us were together, we dared to tell what happened. When we finished, Roman's dad told us he would talk to the uncle to ask if he knew anything or had any information that could help us. It was his house after all. We went to the university feeling scared. On the way, we were talking about what we could do about it. The atmosphere felt tense. We felt that at the stoplights, people were watching us from the sidewalk, from the other cars. And even already at the university, we noticed that some teachers looked at us with a certain resentment. It was strange. It was as if everyone out there knew what was happening to us, as if they were against us. We spent the day in relative calm until we had to split up for a class that neither Roman nor Polina was taking. I had this class from 7 to 8 p.m. That day after it ended, I stayed to finish an exercise I missed during the session. And there, in a very strange way, I ended up falling asleep. I woke up confused when a guard entered the classroom and told me everyone had left the university. I looked at my watch. It was about 11:30. I thanked him and ran to the parking lot, but when I got there, a huge chain was keeping the exit gate closed, which left me with few options. Take the bus, although at that hour there probably weren't any routes left, or call an Uber, which seemed like the best option, until I noticed that my phone's battery was dead. It felt like everything aligned to make me walk home through the lonely city. But then I remembered the emergency bill my dad taught me to keep. He used to say that those 100 pesos could save my life, and they were just about to do that for me. I took it from my backpack, stepped outside, and waited for a taxi, which, although more expensive, would surely be safer than walking 4 hours to my house. In the middle of the night. At least something had to get me closer. While I was waiting, I noticed 2 figures standing on the sidewalk in the distance. I tried to focus on them. After a few seconds, I realized it was Roman and Pau, but something was off. They were just standing there, not walking or talking. Even after I waved at them, I tried to get closer. I walked toward them, but something really strange was happening. The more I walked forward, the farther away they seemed to be. It was like the space was stretching, like I was on a moving walkway at an airport. I was walking toward them, but I was getting farther away. I tried to do it faster. Then I started to jog. I started to get desperate, and I ran. But I couldn't reach them. A taxi's light snapped me out of that horrible trance, and without me signaling, it stopped beside me. I looked through the window. It was Roman and his dad. Get in, man, quick. They've already seen us. And yes, those figures I had previously seen as Roman and Pau were now just 2 black silhouettes running toward us. Roman's dad floored it. It looked like his old taxi could fall apart at any moment. When we got to his house, Pau, his grandma, and Roman's uncle were already there, having coffee. I didn't really know what the purpose of all of us being together was, but I did know that somehow what was happening affected all of us. Roman's uncle broke the ice and said, "I didn't think those people were still causing trouble back in the village. I stopped going for that very reason. I'll tell you what I know. When I bought the house, the town was much smaller than it is now. No one ever went there, not even by accident. Only the people who lived there or the suppliers for the town's only store would go. One day, a man arrived and began chatting with people outside the store and church, and in general, whenever he had the chance. A very charismatic man. Gradually, rumors spread that this man performed cleansings, opened paths, and practiced witchcraft, so powerful that several families had managed to make their businesses prosper. They made fortunes overnight. And this man got the nickname El Santo. He gradually became more popular, not just locally, but across the state. Luxury trucks frequently drove up to his house in town. Until one day, he stopped going out. No one saw him anymore, except at church or at the store, and people started talking. Some said that the rich people had kidnapped him. Others claimed they had seen him running out at dawn, heading into the hills. And others? That one day he simply vanished into thin air, as if he never existed. The truth is that every month, luxury trucks keep going up the hill, month after month without fail, until I decided to stop going to the house. Because those voices were getting closer and closer, the voices from their ceremonies. I thought they were just a bunch of crazy people with too much free time, with plenty of money to go up the hill at 3 a.m. But now I see they're more... We all froze. Nobody knew what to say. That silence was broken by a woman's voice, a voice speaking from outside from the window behind me, with the same effect as the voice I heard in my apartment that night.
We know more about you than you know about yourselves. We even know when you're going to die, but if you don't keep quiet, we can move that date up.
We all heard it. That raspy woman's voice with a mocking tone, the same one who answered Roman's phone. The poor guy says it was his mom's voice, but his dad insists it wasn't. That night, everything went to hell. I got to my apartment after 2 in the morning. After dropping off Pau and her grandmother, Roman's dad drove me. When I came in, everything was in order, except for one thing. When I lay down on my bed, it was slightly warm, like when someone gets up and their body heat stays on the mattress. I looked around suspiciously. Everything was in perfect order, but there was something in the air that made me uneasy. And that discomfort grew when from the bathroom rolled out very slowly a ball. A ball that I recognized well, the same ball I loved as a child, the same ball I let roll onto the avenue and that my grandfather went to get for me without looking. He stepped off the sidewalk and there, a public transport bus hit him. It couldn't stop in time and ran him over, killing him instantly. I hadn't thought about that horrible memory in years, the one that sent me to therapy for years. But where did that ball come from? I hurried into the bathroom with determination, ready to confront whoever was in there, and when I went in, it was completely empty. I couldn't take it anymore. That's when I broke down. I didn't know what to do anymore. I didn't know what those people wanted from me. I had absolutely no intention of telling anyone what we had seen that night. I didn't know what else to do or who to turn to. The next day, Pau stopped going to school. She left without saying anything, changed her number, and moved to a new house. I never heard from her again. Roman gradually drifted away from me. In the following days, he stopped talking to me. He sat far away and stopped taking the same classes as me. And I permanently dropped out of the program. I moved to Mexico City, where a cousin let me stay for a few months while I looked for a job, and everything was going well. There were no more voices in my head or intruders in my apartment. The only strange thing that happened was just a few weeks ago when they changed my boss at work. A new one arrived from the Querétaro branch. His name is Jair. He's a nice guy, pretty normal. The only weird thing is the way he looks at me. From the very first second we saw each other, he watched me with that look of complicity people give you when they know you know them and they know who you are. A macabre look, almost one of satisfaction. The curious thing was that this change happened right when I told my story to someone for the first time. To my current girlfriend, I told her with the same details that I'm writing now. 2 days later, they changed my boss. And then this crazy guy came to watch over me, to remind me they know me better than I know myself. Why did they come back? I think it's something I don't want to find out. Thank you for reading, Uriel. I hope I convinced you and appreciate you creating this space. You don't know it, but it takes courage to talk about these things, but also to publish them, and even to listen. I hope I don't get anyone else in trouble. I'm writing this to express all the misfortune this encounter brought into my life. I know you might not dare, but I would like to hear it narrated by you. Still, now I do feel safer, knowing that more people know about me, about my story. I hope you all feel at ease, even while listening to this episode about a topic that, as I always tell you, seems to me very, very macabre. Because even if we don't realize it, we all have a sect, a strange cult, very, very close by. We've all had contact with someone who belongs to one, and maybe it's the person we least expect. For now, what I want most is to wish a lot of strength to the person who shared the previous story with us, and to thank them for trusting me, for sharing it with us, with this community. Speaking of that, I really appreciate it if you're already subscribed, if you've already become a part of this. And if not, now is the time. Join the best community on the entire internet. Go join the Facebook group as well, where, seriously, we have a really great and friendly environment. We have a lot of people who share their stories with complete trust. There's no insulting. There's truly a spirit of camaraderie. In the description of this episode, I'll leave all the necessary links so you can follow us everywhere, so you can share us. How do you listen to Relatos la Noche? And watch out, because in the next episodes, we're going to be giving away more books than ever. So stay tuned and don't forget to comment on every episode. For now, let's go with one more story, Macabre, because there are still more tales tonight. I'm Patricia, an elementary teacher, and I want to share something that happened a few years ago. On a field trip I still struggle to recall calmly. It was in a town in Guanajuato where I took my 6th grade class to visit a nearby historic area. Everything was going well until, during a break, one of the balls the kids had rolled downhill into an area that wasn't part of the tour. 3 of them, Ivan, Mauricio, and Tadeo, ran after it without telling anyone. When I realized it, they were gone. I ran to the path's edge and shouted, but got no answer. I went into the bushes, and after a while I heard their voices further down. I found them in a clearing near a small ravine filled with piled up stones. They were silent, looking at something on the ground. When I got closer, I saw what it was. Some kind of altar made with stones arranged in a circle, and in the center there was a figure carved out of wood. It looked like a human body with a lot of detail, and the head was that of a goat, but the head seemed to be real, embedded in the wooden body. Also, it had a crown of thorns. I don't know how to explain it, but I know the head was real. The figure was child-sized, and the eyes looked like they were watching us. I asked them to get away from there. I yelled at them. I told them not to leave my side again for any reason, and that they shouldn't go near that part of the hill again. They just nodded. I was scared too. That night, already at home, I couldn't sleep. I had the feeling that something was wrong, that we had interrupted something that wasn't meant for us, and the next day I confirmed it. The father of one of the kids, Ivan, called me to tell me that his son hadn't been able to sleep, that he had heard banging on the window for hours, as if someone wanted to open it for him, but he couldn't see anyone. They thought it was a prank or a thief, but in the morning they found footprints in the yard, right there by his window. They weren't human. They were tracks like an animal's, like a goat's, only bigger. And the worst part is that, from what they told me, they were marked like the goat had walked on 2 legs. The same thing happened to the other 2 kids, the same footprints, the same noise at night. The parents went to the village to ask around, and someone told them that there was an old cult in that area, very powerful. They worshipped a figure with a goat's head, and the altar where the kids found the ball belonged to them. Luckily, they hadn't run into them that afternoon, because finding the idol is already bad enough, but running into them, the ones who worshipped it, that was worse. You couldn't survive that. Since then, obviously, I never took my students on field trips to that area again. I would never risk my kids running into something like that again.